Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Tuesday live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A Tuesday morning to look back on a monumental Monday night around the National Basketball Association, including a debut in the City of Angels for the first time as a Laker, Luka Doncic on the floor in the purple and gold for L.A. We will break down how his debut went, what it means for the Lakers the rest of the way, and all a part of a 10-game slate on a Monday night in the NBA. You got to build up the basketball now, DRS, at the end, officially, of the National Football League season in 2024. But the offseason ticks on. Some big picture questions in our second hour and all the news and notes that everybody needs around the NFL as well. Plenty to get to here on this Tuesday ahead of a huge Tuesday night slate in college basketball on this Tuesday as well.
Alabama on the road at Moody tonight. Certainly something that you're going to want to watch. Connecticut, how about that? Taking on Creighton tonight. The 2 C's in the Big East. So, yes, it is college basketball / NBA season as we put a bow on the NFL, but also still a lot of news and notes around the National Football League that we must attend to today. It feels good on a Tuesday. The voice is a little bit more rested. I got to tell you, Ben, I got a good night's sleep, but the back woke up barking today, though. Not happy with that, though. So we're almost fully back, but no pun intended at that point.
A lot of walking in the Big Easy, I presume. You talked about the connectivity of the Super Bowl setup in New Orleans, so maybe just a little bit sore. How was your nap yesterday? Good?
Fantastic. Had a great meal yesterday. Chipotle action. Relaxed. Took the dogs for a walk. Got a great night's sleep, as I said at that point. Also, the trophy has been placed. It's been confirmed. And hopefully, I don't know when it's coming, but it's going to be nice to get that twin in there for the ceremony. And life couldn't be better right now.
Right. Maybe a few days, could be a few weeks, maybe even a month or so. But when it happens, a second Super Bowl parade at the right side household to celebrate
good.
hoisting that second Lombardi trophy.
Two.
Donnie still basking in the glow of an Eagles Super Bowl championship. All right, let's go to the NBA on a Monday night. The long-awaited debut for Luka Doncic as a Los Angeles Laker. And it comes in a big win for the Lakers at home against the Utah Jazz. The Lakers closed as a 12-point home favorite. They win and cover 132-113. Now, maybe Luka Doncic's not best night in terms of his basketball playing career. Only 14 points in 24 minutes, just 5 of 14 from the floor, but still was out there playing in not just his first game, Donnie, as a Laker, but his first game since Christmas. He's a part of the flow now and happy to be a part of a Lakers team that has won 6 consecutive games.
Yeah, and the FanDuel Sportsbook probably really happy he's back as well because he went under his points, under his rebounds, and under his assists last night, which certainly I'm sure they're happy about. But he only played 23 minutes in an easy laugher. Maybe a preview to show what the Lakers can actually do as they now sit 32-19. But a good night overall, as Luka even said, right? A little bit of nerves out there gave way to fun. That's the way it's supposed to be. Easy victory. You're supposed to pace teams like the Utah Jazz.
You saw all those jersey T-shirts in the crowd at the Crypto.com arena. Luka Doncic, the first Laker ever to wear number 77. Dirk Nowitzki, his former Mavs teammate and Dallas legend, in attendance to take in the festivities. Meanwhile, in Dallas, they lose by a point in overtime to the Kings, and they had fans thrown out of American Airlines Arena for mouthing on the Jumbotron, "Fire Nico," as in fire Nico Harrison, the GM in Dallas. Tough times in Big D, good times in Los Angeles. 6 straight wins for the Lakers. Will continue to break down the association. Donnie, a very slow offensive start last night for the Timberwolves in Cleveland. It was a line that caught our attention because the Cavs, the best team in the Eastern Conference, understood. But a 9.5-point home favorite against the full-strength Timberwolves. And despite Anthony Edwards scoring 44 at the end of the game, the T-Wolves started the game missing their first 16 field goal attempts. It allows Cleveland to win by 20+, 128-107. The Cavs covering as that 9.5-point home favorite.
I agree with that. I thought it would be a double-digit win for Cleveland yesterday. But how about that? Like, the game goes over the total, Ben, as you just said. Like, a 12-point first quarter for Minnesota. And we weren't talking like a 198.5. Like, you were close to 230, and you still lost that under if you took that side. But Cleveland, we know, great basketball team, 25-4 at home. I expected the victory last night, and they got it.
19-10 against the spread as a home team as well. All right, let's go to college basketball now quickly. A couple of top 25 teams in action. The Houston Cougars, DRS, now ranked 6th in the country, making good on that number last night at home against the Baylor Bears. The Cougs covering as a 9.5-point home favorite, winning 76-65. Houston now at the 20-win benchmark for the Cougs and Kelvin Sampson, 20-4 straight up.
12-1 also in the Big 12. I like this basketball game, but I took Baylor, 62.5 team total under in this game. They ended up with 65 points and scored 35 in the second half. Should have just went with Houston. I thought they would win. Thought the line was a little bit high. Thought they would play great defense, which technically they did. But Baylor did go over at 62.5, so I took the L there.
132.5 for the total for the game overall. It does push to the over. Donnie, there was a thought in the betting markets that perhaps Clemson, after the stunner against number 2 Duke at home on Saturday evening, would be in for a letdown spot against a hungry Carolina team just trying to stay in bubble conversation for the NCAA tournament. Nope. Clemson now 23rd in the country, back inside the AP poll on Monday afternoon. A 20-point home rout of UNC, 85-65. The Tigers easily cruising to a cover as a 4.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, how about Clemson, 12-2 now in the ACC? It is a down ACC, and why? Because North Carolina teams like that aren't very good this year, 14-11 overall. But you're right about that. Maybe it was a letdown situation if that game would have been played in Chapel Hill as opposed to Little John, 49-33 at the break. It was a wrap after the first half.
Carolina in danger of missing the NCAA tournament for the second time in 3 years under Hubert Davis. The most watched Super Bowl ever. That is what Fox is projecting for Super Bowl 59. 126 million, viewers for Sunday night in Super Bowl 59. That would make it the most watched Super Bowl we have ever seen.
Look, all you have to say here is the America's team is not the Dallas Cowboys. It's official now. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. We all turned in for our love for the Eagles to watch them beat the Dynasty and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm actually shocked at have this number because I thought it might have been lower rated because of the blowout nature and the fact that these are two hated teams. But apparently, the Eagles took over the mantle as America's team. We all wanted to watch the devastation and the blowout of Mahomes and Kelsey and also Taylor Swift. We all loved it. America enjoyed it.
What did the infamous bowler Pete Weber once say? Hate me or love me? You watched 126 million viewers for Super Bowl 59, moving past the previous record that was set last season, the Chiefs and the 49ers, 123.4 million viewers. An arbitration panel sides with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore trying to become the new ownership group of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, good on this. And if you just read it between the tea leaves, this guy Lurie made a horrible business move and sold at that price and was trying to wiggle out of it so he could sell it 3 or 4 times the price that he sold it for. Good on those arbiters for looking the other way, going like, nah, we're not putting up with these games here. You're going to sell that at the number you said you would sell it at.
T-Wolves and Lynx. Is it Lurie? Is it Lore? Anyway, we'll figure it out a little bit later on. The Charlotte Hornets, Donnie, plan to contest the failed physical of Mark Williams over the weekend.
I love it, man. This is politics creeping in behind the scenes on people that don't want to actually make trades after they make them. Hold it. Hold the line down there, Charlotte. Come on.
They have been in contact with the NBA. Donnie, I didn't really think you'd have many thoughts on those final 2 subjects.
Yeah.
Side always delivers. Let's go to Luka Doncic's debut in Los Angeles. We do it next.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
A very big night in Los Angeles where the stars always shine for the Lakers. And last night, the introduction and debut of their newest superstar, who they hope will shine for the next decade plus in L.A. That would be Luka Doncic, making his Lakers debut last night to plenty of fanfare and had the red carpet rolled out. Crypto.com Arena DRS pregame decked out in 77 Laker jersey t-shirts to welcome in Luka Doncic, the first ever player in the purple and gold to wear number 77 in Lakers franchise history. And although Luka was just okay in not only his debut in Los Angeles, but his first game in the NBA since Christmas Day, the Lakers continue to roll, make it 6 consecutive wins now for LA, hammering one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, but still covering as a 12-point home favorite, winning 132-113 against the Utah Jazz in Luka Doncic's debut. Again, covering as a 12-point home favorite, 6 victories in a row now for LA.
Yeah, you're probably looking from a side perspective. The books didn't do very well because everybody was probably loading up on the Lakers by double digits. But we talked about it yesterday, even at FanDuel. That line opened up at a number and dropped a point or two below. But still, the Lakers were easily the better team. 37 points in the first quarter, 35 points in the second quarter. It was roughly over by the half. But understanding Luka Doncic, it was his night last night, getting introduced there. 24 minutes played. You know he was a little bit nervous. 5 of 14 from the floor, only 1 of 7 from three-point range, but still finished at a plus 15 with 14 points. We talked about what night did you think Luka was going to have? And again, under his points, under his rebounds, under an assist. Maybe that would have changed if that game was closer and they needed him all the way through the game. He probably would have played 35 plus minutes here. But it's a good start back on the court for Luka. Gets that home court out of the way. Got the adulation from the fans here. Now he's going to be able to settle in, and we'll really see what Luka Doncic brings to the Los Angeles Lakers.
In his debut, as you saw there, did Luka Doncic go off for a 35-point performance as we often saw during his time as a Dallas Maverick? No, he had 14 points in 24 minutes, only 5 boards and 4 dimes. His props throughout the day on the rise, 26.5 the points props, 7.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists. As Donnie mentioned, Doncic under all of those numbers. But again, still a very celebratory environment and an exciting atmosphere that sees the 6th consecutive win for LA. And Donnie, that's a part of this conversation, adding Luka Doncic to the fold as well for the Lakers. We saw a bunch of big splashes throughout NBA trade deadline week, perhaps the most seismic and dramatic deadline week we have seen in the NBA ever, or at least in quite some time. But teams like the Golden State Warriors making moves, and the Milwaukee Bucks making moves. Those teams are flirting closer to 500 than the Lakers, who are now 32-19 and sit in the 5 spot in the Western Conference. This Lakers team, adding Luka Doncic, is in prime position to make a deep postseason run. 6 wins in a row for the Lakers. They have covered in all 6. Last night, just the 3rd time as a favorite. They have also gone over DRS, LA, in 6 of their last 7. And it's a part of the story for Luka Doncic teaming up with LeBron James. LeBron is in year number 22 at the tender age of 40 years old and is still basically a walking near triple-double night in, night out. 24 points, 8 dimes, 7 boards last night for LeBron to lead the Lakers to a victory where Luka Doncic made his debut but didn't play all that well.
Yeah, and also, how about a contrast in, different environments here where you have everybody getting a Luka t-shirt. They're all there to see Luka. They're all excited for what the Lakers can be. And then the Dallas Mavericks actually having fans outside the arena bringing caskets here, celebrating that the fact that their franchise is gone, as opposed to saying, we have Luka for the next 5 to 6 years and let's go out and win a championship here. So the conquering hero returns home, and Luka and Anthony Davis like, what did I do? I'm just trying to play basketball. And then he gets injured right away. I mean, my goodness, what a whirlwind between these two franchises in just 1 week, where I didn't see anybody, Ben, that goes, man, Dallas really made out on that trade. Sometimes it's just lopsided and you call it as you see it.
You could have found, I guess, an angle to say that Anthony Davis, still playing at an all-pro level, does actually elevate the Mavericks defensively, maybe makes them a better whole. But AD now out for at least a month, it would seem, with the adductor strain that he suffered in his Dallas debut on Saturday. Guys kicked out of the arena yesterday in Big D for mouthing on the Jumbotron that Nico Harrison, the general manager, should be fired. And the Mavericks lose at home by a single point in overtime to the Sacramento Kings. Donnie, you talked about the fanfare and the celebration. That is Los Angeles, the city of angels, Hollywood, the stars for Luka Doncic in his debut. Despite only scoring 14 points and 5 of 14 from the floor, even LeBron was warming up in the jersey t-shirt that Lakers fans were given last night. Let's hear from the guy himself, not LeBron, but Luka Doncic, on his debut in the warm welcome from the home crowd.
Being special, the way they received me, everybody, it was amazing to see. I was a little nervous before. I remember when was the last time I was nervous before the game. So, but once I stepped on the court, it was fun, and just being out there again felt amazing.
5 of 14 from the floor, so yeah, some nerves in a new arena, trying to find the sweet spot. 1 of 7 from deep, but Donnie, I think you have to be optimistic by the opening game with Luka Doncic in the fold for the Los Angeles Lakers, and you have to be optimistic about where the Lakers currently stand in the NBA standings and what it could mean for the stretch run following the All-Star break this upcoming week.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about, Ben? 77 is the number. I mean, how do we get to 77? I mean, come on. It used to be back in the day, you couldn't go over 55 because the refs need to make your number on a foul call with both hands up and be able to complete it. How do we get to 77? It's a terrible look on that guy here. 7 would have been a much better look at this point here. So how about that take?
It's fine, but he has always worn 77, if I am not mistaken.
It's horrible. What an ugly number. What an ugly
number. It looks
number.
fantastic right there. I think it looks good.
What is he
in the purple?
Is he
and
77 in the Olympics? Is he 77 in the Olympics or for his home country team?
What a great
Does he
question
still wear
for
77?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, tough
horrible.
Day for Donnie
Even
Wright's
worse.
side.
It's
tough
even
day
worse.
For Donnie Wright's side.
Yeah.
So the Lakers right now, again, we are well past the midway point of this NBA season. Everybody has played at least 50 games around the association. The Lakers in the 5 spot, but only a half game behind the Nuggets for this 4 spot. LA has won 6 in a row. The Thunder have won 6 straight. The Nuggets, the longest active win streak currently in the NBA, 7 wins in a row. Speaking about the rest of the NBA, we go around the association on a Monday night. Next.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Let's go elsewhere around the association from a 10-game slate on a Monday night outside of Los Angeles and Luka Doncic's debut in L.A. Let's go to the best team in the Eastern Conference. the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donnie, it was a line that caught both of our eyes early yesterday. 9.5 in favor of the Cavs. All right, Anthony Edwards sitting out for the T-Wolves, we would presume. No? Minnesota at full strength? Well, Minnesota at full strength missed their first 16 shots of the game. First time that has happened in the NBA in 20 years. Shout out to our producer extraordinaire and stat man Joe Frizo for finding that information. And after they started slow from the field, Anthony Edwards caught some heat and ended up scoring 44 points. Third consecutive 40-plus game for the Ant-Man. But still, it came in a losing effort and not even a covering losing effort. The T-Wolves lose by 21. The Cavs hold serve on their home floor, where they have been dynamite this year. 128-107, the victory for Cleveland. They cover as that 9.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, so simple. 51% as a team from the floor for Cleveland, and it was a wrap after that first quarter. 30-12, then 36-32, coasting into the second half with an easy victory. Also understand this, Ben, that line was 7.5 at the opening number and closed at 9.5, which again would lead you to believe that you thought somebody would be sitting out. But I just thought the Cleveland Cavaliers were in a good spot as the better team, and they were last night, no doubt about it. It's almost like coming to that point where, do I want to take a flyer on Cleveland, not to win the world championship, but just to win the Eastern Conference? Because I do believe they're a fantastic team. And as we said yesterday, 5 or 6 game lead over the Celtics in the win column, which if they can get a home court advantage, that's a major advantage in the playoffs. And you're getting a very, very good price on Cleveland. 43-10 now in the season.
43-10 DRS, 5.5 game advantage over the Celtics for that one spot. Maybe you are just paying attention to the NBA for the first few times this year and think, well, Boston, the reigning NBA champs and still the title favorites, can certainly make a run. We've got less than 30 games for both of those teams remaining in this NBA campaign. To cover 5.5 games in that span, the Celtics would have to go nuclear, and Cleveland would have to do the exact opposite of what they have done all season long. Win. They are 43-10, second best mark in the NBA, only a half game behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had a franchise record 27 threes at home last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scoring 30-plus, and OKC absolutely destroys the Pelicans, 137-101. New Orleans, worst team in the NBA's Western Conference. How about another team at the trade deadline that made quite a splash? That would be the Golden State Warriors. The acquisition of Jimmy Butler made his debut on Saturday, game number 2 as a Warrior last night on the road against the shorthanded Milwaukee Bucks, who will not have Giannis Antetokounmpo until at least after the All-Star break. So Golden State closes as a 7-point road favorite inside the Pfizer Forum, and they make good on that number. Big victory on the road in Milwaukee, 125-111.
Yeah, I thought the Warriors would win, but didn't bet them. I thought that line was a little bit too strong, but did think the game would get over due to the fact that no Antetokounmpo, no really rim protectors in this game, and a good vibe up and down the court. And they got that last night with 125 points here from the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. But you do look at Dame Lillard. Doesn't he feel like he's back in Portland again? 39 minutes, 20 shots here, 38 points, and in a loss. He's fitting right in there, saying, you know what, Antetokounmpo, sit out the next couple of games. Let me get back to Dame time here, whether we win or lose. But the Warriors, Jimmy Butler fitting in there. We'll see. By the way, 15 free throw attempts by Jimmy Butler, doing some damage at the free throw line.
2 games for Jimmy Butler as a Warrior, 2 victories for Golden State. Jimmy Butler has scored at least 20 in both of those games. Stephen Curry last night, season-high 38 points. He has scored 35-plus in both of the games with Jimmy Butler. 4 consecutive games for Steph with at least 30. And by the way, over 230.5. That was the total last night in Milwaukee. The Warriors have gone over in 11 of their last 14 games. Just something to keep in mind as we see this new rendition of the Warriors. The Celtics still keeping pace near the top of the Eastern Conference. A victory on the road in Miami, holding the Heat as a team to just 34% from the floor, which leads to only 85 points. Boston wins 103-85, covers as a 5.5-point favorite in South Beach.
Yeah, you take a look at that, you know, the Miami hangover that you would have. Well, technically it was Hero and Jaquez, both with stomach illnesses, sitting that out. The minute you saw Hero was down, you knew it was going to be a tough night offensively for the Miami Heat, and it was only 85 total points.
21-29-1 against the spread for the C's, booked as a favorite in 51 of 54 games this year, but still those NBA championship favorites. News and notes around the National Football League next.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or a plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Listen, it's the NFL offseason now for a very long time. It is the second official full day of the National Football League offseason for all 32 NFL clubs, but there is still so much to break down always around the National Football League. We look back at Super Bowl 59 in terms of the record viewership that Fox is now projecting. 126 million viewers on Sunday night for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. That would set a new viewership record, moving past last year's biggest game of the season in Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and the 49ers that featured an audience of 123.4 million. 126 million, DRS, to watch your Birds absolutely blow out the Kansas City Chiefs, hold KC back from a three-peat, and win Philadelphia's second Lombardi Trophy in franchise history.
What that tells you, too, for next year is the NFL always takes notes on the teams that are getting ratings, which is usually the Dallas Cowboys, but they're not a great football team. So now the Eagles will appear probably in every single primetime slot along with the Kansas City Chiefs next year. And that's okay because game number 1 will be at Lincoln Financial Field on a prime time. But I'm actually surprised by that. It's easy for me to say, the Eagles, everybody wants to watch them. But you heard, like, where the public can be wrong. We talk about, like, fading the public. Who did you want to see in the championship game? People are like, I just don't want to see the Chiefs, or, the Eagles are there. I hate to, cheer for them. Would have loved to see the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Commanders. That's not what the ratings suggest. You're getting numbers like this. This is exactly what the NFL wanted. They want to see record ratings every year to push that number higher, whether it's game price tickets here, whether it's selling packages to Netflix or, Amazon Prime at this point, whether or not the bidding war for the next Super Bowl gets higher and higher. You do numbers like this, it takes the attention away. And I thought everybody wanted to see the Bills and the Commanders. Apparently, everybody wanted to see the Chiefs and the Eagles. They just didn't know it yet.
is part of the strength of the National Football League and the biggest sporting event of each and every year, that being a Super Bowl. I think we are going to see a new record viewership audience next year and probably the year after that, and so on and so forth. Last year set the record, 123.4 mil. Now a new record just a season following, despite, as Donnie said, the narrative that everybody was tired of Kansas City and we didn't want to see the rematch of a Super Bowl that we had just seen 2 years prior. The National Football League remains king. That's why we're talking about them at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time on the second full day of the NFL offseason. An uneasy offseason ahead for the San Francisco 49ers, who entered this past season as the favorites to win Super Bowl 59, who played in 2 years ago now, Super Bowl and Super Bowl 58. Donnie, one of the reasons it's uneasy, a lot of moving parts perhaps within this organization. We already got the news over the weekend that Deebo Samuel has been given permission by the 49ers brass to seek a trade. And part of that is looking at their books and being like, okay, oh, what is that number? We got to pay Brock Purdy now? We don't get the salary discount of being Mr. Irrelevant in the draft and a 7th-round pick? Brock Purdy's extension up on the tab this offseason. And Niners owner and CEO Jed York saying this week that San Francisco will do, quote, everything to keep Brock Purdy in-house.
Yeah, I know it's smokescreen season, but if you are an owner and you're trying to negotiate with your quarterback and you're telling the press you're going to do everything it takes to keep him here, does that mean blank check Brock Purdy? Make me general manager of the 49ers. I will play this, Ben, right down the line perfectly here because I can look at what the Giants did with Daniel Jones. It's okay, Ben, to say, Brock, we love you. We're going to pay you a lot of money. You know you're going to get it here. We just want to see if that market actually deserves the type of payment that we're going to give you. Go out and shop around. We'll match anything that you come up with here, whether it's $25 million or $65 million. Because if the market's there, we want you back, but we want it to be right. I can't see this being like you're not going to get the free agency. We're going to break the bank because so many times that we look over it, whether it's on Pro Football Today, Ben, or right here on the early line, who is actually paying Brock Purdy $60 million on the open market? Or is the market just with you because he's your starting quarterback like we saw with Daniel Jones? That's what I'm most interested in here, Ben.
I think it's a great point, Donnie. I don't think it's a matter of if the San Francisco 49ers sign and extend Brock Purdy or if Purdy is San Fran's starting quarterback beginning in 2025. I think that will happen. It's a matter of how much. What is that new deal that Brock Purdy signs? Is it just the NFL inflation at the quarterback spot that saw Dak Prescott sign the richest deal in history of the National Football League at the end of last offseason, $60 million per year? Does it look like the Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love deal of $55 million? Could it be more like a Baker Mayfield extension last offseason, around $33, $35 million? I think, is the conversation, which is a great deal for the Buccaneers. Not a matter of if, but how much in San Francisco for Brock Purdy. 17-1 price on the Niners to win next year's Super Bowl. Third best number out of the NFC. Sixth best number overall. Donnie, this drew a little bit of social media conversation yesterday.
It did.
The New York Giants hiring longtime NFL assistant Chad Hall, who had previously been in Buffalo and in Jacksonville. Chad Hall is the brother of Kelly Stafford, who is the wife of Matthew Stafford, meaning that Chad Hall is Stafford's brother-in-law. He reunites with guys he worked with in Buffalo, that being Joe Shane and head coach Brian Daboll. But because of this hire in New York, DRS, there was some conversation that perhaps Matthew Stafford might try to join forces with Chad Hall with this Giants organization.
Let me understand this. Matthew Stafford is in the twilight of his career, still on the back end of his prime. His goal is to win a Super Bowl before he's done again, which is why he's playing. He's got plenty of money, already has one. So we're saying that he lives in Los Angeles, has one of the best play callers you could possibly have as your head coach, a team that looks like it's on the rise with maybe one of the best young, talented wide receiver in football, Puka Nacua, and he wants to go to the trash fire on the New Jersey Turnpike, known as the New York Giants, because his brother-in-law or brother is playing, is coaching.
Yeah.
That's not even the. I didn't even know where, like Adam Schefter, I saw the tweet come out and everybody picked up on it. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever, theoretically. Hey, now he's going to play for the Giants. In what world, Ben? In what world?
Chad Hall has coached in the NFL for a long time. He used to play in the National Football League. He has never once worked or been in the same organization. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And you know what he did. He looks like 33 in Kelly Green, if you ask me. By the way, DRS, they have never once linked up throughout the entirety of their tenures in the National Football League. Now, there was some conversation by Chad's sister, Matthew's wife, Kelly, about maybe the Stafford family as a whole, although I'm not sure Matthew would agree that they were not too pleased with the Rams looking to trade Cooper Kupp this offseason. Let me tell you this. Matthew Stafford's not leaving L.A. Matthew Stafford will be back for the Rams this offseason. If, for some reason, the Rams did not want to commit to Stafford, which I find hard to believe, then he could look for something. But Matthew Stafford, in my estimation, is not forcing his way away from Sean McVay to go to the Giants to play or work with his brother-in-law, the assistant quarterbacks coach, now in Chad Hall, to only be done in New York after a year because Daboll, Shane, and Hall are all fired at the end of 2025. Oh, by the way, the Dallas Cowboys, they hired Ken Dorsey as their pass game specialist. Of course, the Bills offensive coordinator, the Browns offensive coordinator this past season.
Yeah, by the way, forget about Ken Dorsey. Let's go with Kelly Stafford right now. She seems like the type of wife or girlfriend that you would have that runs into a place like, my boyfriend's going to come in here and beat everybody up. And then you walk in unbeknownst to the entire bar that you have to fight the entire bar now because of what your girlfriend and or wife said. Turn her mic off, Matthew. Only getting you in trouble, man. My goodness.
My fiance, Chloe, huge fan of Kelly Stafford's podcast. Sometimes I will listen as well.
Oh, no.
Just shake my head for Matthew. More around the NFL next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes. End of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid, all around the National Football League on the second full day of this National Football League offseason. All 32 organizations now focused on the future, but perhaps Philadelphia enjoying the glow of winning the second Lombardi Trophy in franchise history. Jalen Hurts yesterday, DRS, at Disney World, enjoying it as anybody should, riding roller coasters, having a blast. But what really cracked me up is he had to do like the media interviews with everybody. And you would think, maybe, just maybe, after winning a Lombardi Trophy and being crowned Super Bowl 59 MVP, being asked some fun questions by the media, he would maybe let the guard down and have some fun. My man is business as usual. Asked about his phone background. He goes, yeah, I didn't really think about it. It's still going to be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's, hey, you're going to change it to a big smile and a picture of the Lombardi. I might get around to it at this point, which I love this from my quarterback because it means it's no nonsense. Yeah. And you can tell he was locked in. So when big games come up and you have to rattle him, that's a great personality trait to have. But if you're his business manager, like he's doing pretty well with, you know, the Jordan brand and all that, I get it, and a $250 million contract. But if you just got in his ear like, hey, man, if you smiled and joked around more, we could take you worldwide right now. And it's like, you know what? Yeah. I get paid enough. Yeah. Like, just leave me alone. I want to go home with my fiance and enjoy the offseason, listen to jazz music, and reappear at OTAs. Like, that's the feel you get from Jalen.
For sure. And we appreciate that. It is one of the great football stories that we have seen in the last decade or so. Jalen Hurts. It's long been publicized, of course, benched in the national championship game while at Alabama for Tua Tagovailoa, who comes in and leads the Crimson Tide to a victory. Following year, Tua gets hurt in the SEC championship game. Jalen Hurts comes in now as the reserve, performs so well in the final two quarters to lead the Crimson Tide to a conference championship. Transfers to Oklahoma, has a Heisman runner-up season under Lincoln Riley, a second-round pick in the NFL, who fought his way to be the starter for Philly, and now, of course, a Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP winner. And still, he's like, yep, yes, ma'am, yep, business, great, smile, kind of, maybe a little bit. Let me just go hang out, ride a couple roller coasters, and hang out with my friends and family. It is refreshing, right? He wants to win football games. He is focused solely on that. Never too high, never too low. One of the reasons Philadelphia, a Super Bowl champion. Do you think we see Jalen Hurts shotgunning a beer in the streets of Philadelphia on Friday afternoon as a part of the Super Bowl 59 parade?
Maybe not, but you know what? I do like the fact that my man gets down with cigars now after big victories. So we have a kinship right there. I'm going to have to reach out to Jalen like, hey, man, maybe a little La Roma de Cuba. What do you like? A little Ashton action here. We can meet up and, you know, puff on. And by the way, he is a professional cigar lighter. Have you seen the cigar lightings that he does? Because I don't like to breathe in the smoke when I do that. So I actually like to do the two hands, like smoke and light it appropriately and rotate it around, get it nice and cherry red. He actually does a really good job of having the one hand smoke, which is impressive. You know who did that very well as well? Tony Soprano did it. So he is a world-class cigar guy. I appreciate that.
I mean, when you think about the top cigar guys in the world, Donnie right side, Tony Soprano, and Jalen Hurts. What's the professional way to light a cigar? Just so we get that
you're supposed to
on display again?
You know, like, I wish I could, you know what? If I could get up and get you a cigar and light one now in my house and yell that, I would do that. But it's just the cigar in the mouth with the one hand on the lighter. Oh. That's professional. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
What's the two-hand display? No?
The two-hand display is one hand on the cigar, one on the lighter. Yeah, come on. You're not getting me into a Charles Barkley eating churros right now on the air. So come on now. We're not going down that path. We're just not doing that. Do it again, Chuck. Do it again, Chuck. And he would do it again. We're not doing that. It's not the way we're getting down here on this show. So it's a family show.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you didn't puff a cigar yesterday. Is that because we would get in trouble for the Spiz Grizz? Or like you would get in trouble in your house?
I would get in trouble in my house, but I used to have the electronic ones where like you would puff on it and the smoke would come out. Just because in the middle of the winter. The one thing the people don't understand is, well, why don't you just go outside? It's cold. Cigars take 25 to 30 minutes typically to smoke. And when it's 20 degrees outside, that's not enjoyable. People can go out and take a puff of a cigarette and launch it like into the back mulch and go back into the house. Like, no, you can't do that with a cigar. So that's more enjoyable when you're in a cigar lounge or warmer weather as opposed to where we are here in New Jersey right now.
Maybe at some point this summer we can have the Jalen Hurts and Donnie right side link up to smoke a Stogue on the back porch. Now that would do numbers. DRS, early on Sunday morning, we got a ton of reports around the NFL. Aaron Rodgers' future in New York. Deebo Samuel seeking permission to have a trade this offseason. One that maybe flew a little bit under the radar, this report from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport about the team that holds the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans. New GM you see there in Mike Borgonzi, that they would be open to listening to offers for that first overall pick. It is smokescreen season, of course, for the Titans. They are trying to generate some interest. They know they are in a full rebuild and need as much draft capital and assets as possible. But something to pay attention to now that the next big event in the NFL is the Combine in the NFL Draft in late April. It's officially smokescreen season.
It is. And by the way, for a first-time general manager, hey, he's opening up the playbook here. Exactly correct. You're not going to say, we have our guy locked in. Don't call here. We're going to make a pick. You're open for business as a bad football team. Heck, you might love Cam Ward in this draft. You might love Shedeur Sanders and think that's the quarterback that's going to take you into the future with your franchise and win you a championship. But you don't have to let anybody know you're the number 1 pick here. You might love Cam Ward. And somebody goes, I'll give you 3 first-rounders to trade back 2 spots here, and then we're going to take Shedeur Sanders. Like, great, I love Cam Ward. I'll get him in the 3 spot, the 2 spot, the 4 spot, whoever I trade back to. I love to see that. Smokescreen season is here, and he's playing it exactly the way you're supposed to play down there.
For the first time in a couple of years, there is really not a clear-cut number 1 or a consensus of what even the position going number 1 will be. The last 2 years, it has been a quarterback for sure. We still see Cam Ward as the odds-on favorite ever so slightly at -110 to be the first overall pick. It also should be noted, Donnie, that doesn't have to be Cam Ward drafted by Tennessee to cash that wager. It's just Cam Ward off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft before anybody else. Let's talk more around the National Football League next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is no doubt. You see the laughs that we have, that we missed Donnie Rightside last week while he was on Radio Row in New Orleans. We also missed him because Donnie's got takes like nobody else does. In some reactions, of course, for some big news that happened in the lead up to Super Bowl Sunday in Super Bowl 59, including the class of 2025 making their way to Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Donnie, smallest class we have seen get introduced to the Hall of Fame, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 20 years. Only 4 guys. You see them on your screen, but the take is not, Donnie, so much on who made it to Canton and will wear that gold jacket later this summer, but who was left off the ballot for 2025. That would be Eli Manning, first ballot Hall of Famer, the eligibility for the first time this year, and he did not get in to the Hall of Fame. By reports, although we haven't seen the total votage yet, he wasn't all that close. Donnie, what did you make of Eli Manning still being on the outside looking in to that Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio?
Yeah, it's sort of. I've come around a long time to what the Hall of Fame actually is. I think what it was founded under was the greats and the titans of the game would be placed into this hall for enshrinement so you can enjoy them for years to come, right? And over the years, I realized that it operates outside of the NFL as a separate entity. So the NFL is just not going to fund it repeatedly, regardless if they put anybody in there. And, hey, there's only been 7 Hall of Famers in 100 years. Once I understood the business model is we have to keep putting new people in here so people will continue to come and see, and the bigger names that we put in, they have the bigger fan bases and they'll come through there. So I've gotten okay with that because to me, a Hall of Famer should be a Hall of Famer in everybody's playbook. When you say the words Tom Brady Hall of Fame, nobody's arguing against you. Peyton Manning Hall of Fame, nobody argues against you. Dan Marino, Emmitt Smith. You see the path I'm going down? Absolute no-brainers where you don't have to think about it. And then we get to Eli Manning, who was a good quarterback in his time with Hall of Fame moments. That doesn't mean you get in the Hall of Fame. We've seen guys intercept passes for 109 yards. Wow, that's record-breaking. What a moment there. It doesn't mean they're a Hall of Famer. Great punt returns here. Doesn't mean you're a Hall of Famer. So when I look at Eli Manning and his career, yes, he had a very good career. He has 2 Lombardis and beat the New England Patriots. But that whole concept of I can write the book of the NFL without including Eli Manning. Because understand this, you play as long as he did. You know what a Hall of Famer would have? 13 Pro Bowls, 4-time first-team All-Pros, multiple Super Bowls, which he does have, but also unbelievable winning records, which he doesn't have. And I'm sorry, to be a Hall of Famer and never once be the best quarterback in your own division over the length of your stay in the NFL, that's not a Hall of Famer. That's the Hall of Good is where he should be.
16 years in the National Football League for Eli Manning. The only category that he led the National Football League in a single season during his time in terms of the ones we generally look at, passing yards, passing touchdowns, all of that stuff. Completion percentage was in interceptions. He did that 3 times in his career, 07, 2010, and 2013. The longest passes completed in a National Football League season, and in 2011, one of his 4 Pro Bowl seasons, led the league in fourth quarter comebacks in game-winning drives, but never led the NFL in passing yards, passing touchdowns, completion percentage throughout any of his 16 years in the National Football League. But Donnie, it is rare to see a guy have half as many Super Bowls in Super Bowl MVP awards as Pro Bowl appearances, only 4. And the Pro Bowl, of course, is kind of being diminished in today's day and age, still kind of held some luster in the NFL during a good majority of Eli Manning's career. Ultimately, Donnie, this has always been my takeaway when it came to the great debate of Eli Manning, Hall of Famer or not. I do believe Eli Manning is going to get to Canton, Ohio.
He will get in.
I did not believe he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I think he's going to be there at a certain point. It does not shock me to see that he did not get in his first year of eligibility.
And again, the business of the Hall of Fame, it's good business to put Eli Manning in there. They will show up. He's a great personality. He's a great guy. He's a Giants legend, does great things off the field, does funny things with his brother. Like, we like Eli Manning as a person. And as a football player, he was really good. And he should be retired maybe as a Giants quarterback. I don't know if they retired his number already, but that would be a possibility. But being in the Hall of Fame, understand. And then Eric Allen got in. I love Eric Allen. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the history that I watched on the Eagles. It took him a long time to get in the Hall of Fame, which means, is he really a Hall of Famer? When you ask the name and the question of the person getting in, and it's not an immediate response, you're not a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry.
Eric Allen got in his 19th year. Eli will
come
be
on.
there. Hour number 2 up next.